Let's take a quick intermission for news.
During recent blizzards in eastern Colorado, coyotes became a scourge to maroon livestock and poultry. They were killers. Something had to be done, and it was by air. Hunters take to the skies to stamp out the sharp-toothed menace. The roar of the engine drives the coyotes out of their lairs, and the shadow of doom is etched across the snowbound wastes. Death for the marauder. In 1 month alone, over 200 were killed, and their hides sold. It takes a nice shooting eye and nice piloting. Flying at this altitude is not exactly healthy, especially for the coyote. He'll slaughter no more cattle or chickens, and his skin will bring a nice profit to hunters who take the aerial route. That's quite a bag for a day's work. You might even say the fur has been flying.
K.T.I. is a member of the American Century Broadcasting Network.
And now the news. A boxing match at the American Legion Stadium in Hollywood ended in chaos earlier tonight. Chairs were hurled into the ring, and a fight broke out among angry fans. The exact cause is still unknown, but many spectators were clearly unhappy about Kid Galahad losing to the English fighter Albert Hammond. No serious injuries were reported. K.T.I. Radio News.
K.T.I. Radio presents National News from Washington.
Boxing's on the card at St. Helena's Gym in the Bronx tonight. Golden Gloves Boxing. First round bouts in the sub-novice lightweight class, and it's strictly standing room only. Matteo Strapone takes the measure of Tony Perillo, for the time being, that is. Tony gets in a lick or two and seems to be able to absorb all that Matteo can dish out, which is plenty. But you can't tell about these amateurs. It's nip and tuck, hit or miss. And now it's Tony who finally gets a glove on Matteo's ribs, and that leads to trouble for both fighters. Up they come, and at it they go again. But it's about all over for Matteo Strapone. Next, we have Tony Marino and Harold Torrance. Same class, same vim and vigor. The youngster was game, but he was up against a couple of fists that packed a discouraging wallop. And the ref says, that's all.
K.T.I. is a member of the American Century Broadcasting Network.
In the news, not since January 15th has the city of Los Angeles been rocked by such tragic and gruesome events. The LAPD confirms that a local woman, Celine Henry, has been found murdered near Echo Park. Like Betty Short, Henry was a woman in the bloom of her life. Like Betty Short, she was found unclothed and horrifically mutilated. The crime is quickly becoming known as the lipstick murder, due to messages scrawled on the victim's body in carmine lip paint. Could this be the werewolf killer claiming another Dahlia, or a product of the hysteria that caused over 50 people to confess to the Elizabeth Short murder? Only time will tell. And now, back to regular programming.
We go now to national news here on K.T.I.
20,000 pounds of highly dangerous metallic sodium head for destruction in Lake Lanoire, Washington. The government surplus chemical ignites and explodes when wet. The alkali lake is devoid of fish and forms an admirable disposal spot. A 3,500-pound container of sodium hurtles into the lake and crashes through a foot of ice. As the water seeps in, smoke rises through a series of muffled explosions. The acrid clouds billow several thousand feet over the steep sides of the lake. Disposal of the chemical by the War Assets Administration is made necessary because no public carrier will accept it for transportation to a purchaser. One after another, with varying effects, the containers go up with spectacular results as water and sodium meet. A once lethal war chemical becomes a peacetime pyrotechnic display.
K.T.I. is a member of the American Century Broadcasting Network. We go to Washington now with national news from American Century Broadcasting.
Calling the House Un-American Activities Committee to order, Chairman J. Parnell Thomas of New Jersey opens an inquiry into possible communist penetration of the Hollywood film industry. The committee is seeking to determine if Red Party members have reached the screen with subversive propaganda. Mr. Thomas takes an impartial stand in his opening talk.
I want to emphasize at the outset of these hearings that the fact that the Committee on Un-American Activities is investigating alleged communist influence and infiltration in the moving picture industry must not be considered or interpreted as an attack on the industry itself, nor should our investigation be interpreted as an attack on the majority of persons associated with this great industry. I have every confidence that the vast majority of movie workers are patriotic and loyal Americans.
A long list of prominent motion picture witnesses appear before the committee. Speaking for the films, Eric Johnston, president of the Motion Picture Association, talks frankly concerning the attitude of the producers.
We're accused of having communists and communist sympathizers in our employ. Undoubtedly, there are such persons in Hollywood, as you will find elsewhere in America. But we neither shield nor defend them. We want them exposed. We're not responsible for the political or economic ideas of any individual, but we are responsible for what goes on the screen. We guard that with great care. If communists have attempted to inject their propaganda into the motion picture, they have failed miserably. We will never permit them to succeed.
K.T.I. is a member of the American Century Broadcasting Network.
K.T.I. Radio News. An LAPD vice detective has been exposed as a man with a few vices of his own. Cole Phelps, a war hero who was awarded the prestigious Silver Star, is being sued for divorce by his wife after being caught in an illicit affair with a German drug addict. The LAPD issued a statement saying that Detective Phelps has let down not just his family, but also the department and people he swore to serve. He will face a review board in December. This is K.T.I. Radio News.
And now, news from Washington.
Polish girls arrive at Montreal, Canada in a post-war labor experiment by a Canadian industrialist. The girls are part of a group of 100 who will work in a rayon mill at Saint-Georges-de-Beauce, where they will receive the Dominion's minimum wage of $12 a week. The displaced girls, brought from Frankfurt, will be taught the rayon spinning process and are under contract for 2 years, during which time they'll be lodged in a convent school. Here they will pay $6.50 of their wages for board and lodging. They at least are no longer among Europe's wanderers. On the reverse side, the steamship Radnik waits at Montreal to repatriate 500 Yugoslavs who prefer to try life under Tito. They're not leaving empty-handed. Among them, they have pooled $1 million for the purchase of some rather exclusive commodities. Whether or not life in the Western Hemisphere has been congenial, it is certain that their toil has been rewarded. And so these people return to a native land changed by war and ideology.
K.T.I. is a member of the American Century Broadcasting Network. Let's take a quick intermission for news from Washington.
Seized in a hideaway in the Chicago suburb of Skokie, Illinois, confiscated pinball machines finally take the rap. They dished it out plenty, but they can't take it. One-armed bandits take a beating. It's all part of a $40,000 jackpot hit by the state's attorney, which caused the indictment of 6 local officials. The funeral pyre is all set, but where are the mourners? Well, guess the boys will have to go back to Penny Ante.
K.T.I. is a member of the American Century Broadcasting Network.
In news, an update in the gruesome red lipstick murder case. After initial interest in the victim's husband, a Jacob Henry, police investigated reports of a mystery associate with Celine Henry on her last fateful night. Tracking down Mendez's apartment, detectives found his 6 store of bloodied weapons and clothing, and soon apprehended the suspect. He continues to deny responsibility for the crime. The werewolf has yet to be brought to justice, but residents can be safe in the knowledge that one more killer is off the streets. We now return you to our regular programming.
Now, national news.
Officially opening the nationwide March of Dimes campaign in Washington, Mrs. Truman and her daughter Margaret take part in the ceremonies at the Capitol by dropping theirs and the president's dimes in the Missouri bottle. Ms. Truman later made an appeal for contributions to the Infantile Paralysis Fund drive to replace $7.5 million spent during the severe 1946 epidemics. And in New York, little Nancy Drury with the big cop was once a polio victim, but now she's the pin-up girl for the current campaign, seeking to raise $25 million. Little Miss Drury of Louisville, Kentucky, and her 6'8" escort see the town. At Radio City, thousands watch the ceremony, where they see 49 war hero homing pigeons, which symbolize the 48 states and the District of Columbia taking part in the drive. The keys to the city from Mayor O'Dwyer go to Nancy. Give to the March of Dimes.
K.T.I. is a member of the American Century Broadcasting Network. The ACB Network presents National News from Washington.
In the nation's capital, railroad officials, screenwriters, and critics accompany Miss Ann Blythe of Hollywood as she goes aboard the George Washington for the first motion picture premiere on rails. The specially equipped Chesapeake and Ohio twin-unit diner serves 2 useful purposes. Eating is one of them, and then when the dishes have been cleared away and the shades drawn, the car is readily converted into a motion picture theater with seats for 50 persons. 2 projectors provide uninterrupted entertainment, and for the first night audience, the Chessie Theater presents Mark Hellinger's newest hit, Swell Guy. This is the last word in traveling luxury, another step in the campaign to modernize American railroads. You don't have to miss that picture you wanted to see, nor your favorite star. Now you can see them underway on board the Theater on Rails.
K.T.I. is a member of the American Century Broadcasting Network. And now, national news from American Century Broadcasting.
Capitol Hill in Washington is again the nation's focal point as the 80th Congress convenes during one of the most crucial periods in the nation's history. Following the Republican landslide of 1946, the GOP now possesses a clear working majority in both branches of Congress. The Capitol awaits the arrival of President Truman to deliver his message. He shakes hands with Senator Vandenberg, President Pro Tem of the Senate, and Speaker Martin, both presiding over the joint session. Each receives a copy of the President's address. Mr. Truman confronts a Congress heavily weighted by the opposition. He delivers his message on the State of the Union.
In the effort to bring about a sound and equitable price structure, each group of our population has its own responsibilities. It is up to industry not only to hold the line on existing prices, but to make reductions whenever profits justify such action. It is up to labor to refrain from pressing for unjustified wage increases that will force increases in the price level. This is an age when unforeseen attack could come with unprecedented speed. We must be strong enough to defeat and thus forestall any such attack. For these reasons, we need well-equipped, well-trained armed forces, and we must be able to mobilize rapidly our resources in men and material for our own defense should the need arise. Let us have the will and the patience to do this job together. May the Lord strengthen us in our faith. May He give us wisdom to lead the peoples of the world in His ways of peace.
K.T.I. is a member of the American Century Broadcasting Network.